Get ready for chills and thrills at Hometown Haunts and Hops Horror Convention here in Plymouth, Massachusetts. Join us for a spine-tingling day of horror-filled fun on October 28th at the Mayflower Brewing Company. Meet horror actor Matthew G. Taylor from Resident Evil and dive into a macabre world of cinema and literature. Sip on chilling brews, indulge in ghastly treats, and immerse yourself in a haunted atmosphere. Whether you're a horror buff or just seeking an unforgettable experience, Hometown Haunts and Hops has it all. Don't miss out on the eerie excitement. Secure your tickets now by heading on over to Inebri-art.com. Go to our events calendar, and in October you will find the link for Hometown Haunts and Hops, which is sponsored by HalloweenNewEngland.com. HalloweenNewEngland.com is the website for the truly Halloween obsessed, with the most extensive guides to New England haunted houses, ghost tours, classic horror film screenings, jack-o'-lantern festivals, haunted hayrides, and more. They've got all the thrills covered throughout September and October, with over 2,500 Halloween events on their events calendar and hundreds of local Halloween attractions. It's the only place you'll find everything from haunted history tours and costume contests to which haunts are open on Thursday nights. HalloweenNewEngland.com has your Halloween covered and is sponsoring Hometown Haunts and Hops this year.
Across the line, the Gulf Stream, I've been in Tampa Bay, around the horn, and home again, 'cause that is the sailor's way.
Welcome to the Old Colony Cast, a podcast about all things Plymouth and surrounding areas. I'm your host, Andy, and that unbelievable silence that you hear is the lack of co-host Hannah and producer Fish. I'm solo today because that's just how things shake out sometimes. You know, Hannah's off with Walter and Fish is working his day job. But I wanted to make this, very special episode of the Old Colony Cast because we are launching our first horror convention this year at Mayflower Brewing Company. And as things happen, you always end up networking with people. And I have had the honor of meeting Alexandra DeCollibus. Did I get that right? Yeah.
You got it.
Of HalloweenNewEngland.com. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, no problem. I have spent a lot of time thinking about why I am the way I am. And I realized I grew up at a very specific time when not National Geographic. Let me try that again. Ripley's Believe It or Not was on TV all the time. And I think that is where my interest and love of all things macabre and weird and gross. And my mother was a nurse, so like medical stuff interests me. How did you get the love of Halloween and why do people love it so much?
Oh my gosh. So it's interesting because I don't know that Halloween had a big presence in my life as a kid. When I was growing up, or even really till I would say about maybe 10 years ago, I don't even know if it's fair to say this, but lots of people for a long time thought about Halloween as a kid's holiday. And that certainly has evolved. I meet more people, not just through Halloween New England, but just everyday people for completely unrelated circumstances who will readily admit that Halloween is their favorite holiday. So these are adults who just love Halloween. And there's, that didn't used to always be the case. I didn't always come across people who just would say that, So in a lot of ways, Halloween has come into its own as a holiday or I should really emphasize a season, right? The Halloween season that is appealing to a wide range of ages. And it also appeals to a lot of different interests and ways of experiencing it. There's just such a variety. It doesn't have to be about trick-or-treating. It doesn't have to be about scary. It could be about scary. It might be about spooky or haunted history. Could be just about pumpkins, right? Or the atmosphere of the season. People really love different things. And there's a lot of reasons why people might credit Halloween as being their favorite holiday. And I wouldn't say that it was like that for me for my childhood. If anything, the thing that probably primed me to love Halloween later in life was I did love horror movies as a kid. I watched a lot of horror movies by myself as a kid. Just go to the local, video store back when we had video stores.
Yeah.
And I would just roam the aisle, pick the one that had the coolest cover of, something intriguing or gruesome on the front, and would, at 8 years old, watch it by myself. And nobody seemed to mind that I was doing this. And you know what? I obviously could handle it, so it was fine. There was just didn't seem to be any repercussions in that way. And I do think that the seeds of loving this season probably do stem from my love of that heightened drama of a horror movie, that thrill, the suspense, the excitement of it. And I don't know that I associated that with Halloween, because my Halloween experiences was just very different as a kid. So how that is translated in, my life now, I love this holiday. It really is a season for me. Because of Halloween New England, I think about it year round. I'm working on the site year round, connecting with different event producers who do Halloween events or horror haunt events all year round. But the season in New England for Halloween is really about Labor Day until mid-November. It's just a lot longer than many people might think. It really does kick in as soon as, we make that transition out of summer. People have turned their attention. The pumpkin spice comes out.
The Halloween candies in the stores. Yeah.
And, people just like with maybe Christmas, people who put up trees early or decor early, you see that same thing now with Halloween. I do feel like COVID, that year of 2020 when people didn't have sort of the same access to experiences or engaging with a holiday, people try to find creative ways to make that Halloween special, I think, for kids, or just even for all of us, for our own sanity, and bring a little joy. And so I feel like ever since then, I've seen more yard displays than ever, more people just engaging with the season and seeing all different kinds of things, which is thrilling. So it's a great season. It's a great season. And of course, where we live is just primed to enjoy it. The weather, the leaves, the whole fall season is just an invitation to take a road trip somewhere new in New England, explore some new pocket, of our region. And then, by extension, I would encourage people to, enjoy and engage with Halloween attractions and events that are going on in places that they visit, or just even in their backyard.
And so HalloweenNewEngland.com is kind of a depository for all things Halloween that's searchable by location. And so whatever you're in the mood for, I told you I was just poking around on it. And it's amazing how much is going on in such a small area. New England's not that big. And there's haunted attractions, and are there corn mazes on there? Did I see that right?
Yeah. So the categories, I can jump in if you don't mind. So of course, New England, those of us all who live here know this. New England consists of 6 states. It's, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. And Halloween New England is structured in a way that's meant to organize by state. So you could go to Maine and look at the haunted house guide for Maine, and you'll find all the haunted houses that exist in Maine. So the guides that I have on there for every state, there's the haunted houses and trails guide, the pumpkin patch guide, the Halloween events guide, haunted corn mazes, flashlight corn mazes, haunted hay rides, costumes, and horror movies. So the horror movies, just to clarify, are classic horror screenings, or just not the first run stuff that's in the kind of the big theaters, but those anniversary screenings that might pop up, or outdoor, at the drive-in or an outdoor movie screening, related to horror or Halloween movies. And people can just search by state. But what I love about that, or I should say, they can check any of those guides out, within each state. But what I love about it is if you do have a particular passion, I did leave one off, ghost tours. How could I forget ghost tours? I love ghost tours. You know, if you love a particular thing, like say you really love ghost tours, what a wonderful opportunity to think, well, I'm going to hit up all the ghost tours in New Hampshire this year, right? Or I'm going to visit all the haunted hay rides in Massachusetts this year. And you can, if you have a particular thing that is your passion, you can really check off the list and go visit all of those things, or have, again, a goal. I mean, this is, I guess, taking the site to the next level for the Halloween, the passionate Halloween fan. But, every year it makes it so easy for you to have kind of a new ambition. Well, we're going to go to Maine and we're going to see all the haunted trails up in Maine this year, and just, make it a bucket list every season. And that's, Halloween New England is designed to make it as simple as possible for all that information to be in one place. So if you are searching for ideas and you're just looking for inspiration, there's ways to browse it or punch in your zip code and have things that pop up for you. Or if you already come in knowing what you're looking for, it's easy to find. So, the site really came about just because I couldn't find everything in one place, and sometimes you have to take things into your own hands. And there were, maybe some sites out there, but they weren't quite doing what Halloween New England was doing. And most of all, the thing that really was difficult for me is how disorganized they were, how the information seemed very out of date, very confusing. And it's a real commitment that I have with Halloween New England that, there's over 400 Halloween attractions. There's over, well over 2,000 Halloween events, and everything is personally verified by me throughout the season. So you're going to get the most up-to-date information. That you're not coming across something that is, 3-4 years old, or links that don't work. It's very, I'm very attentive to make sure that, we're not annoying people when they take their time to come to the site.
So I live in Plymouth, and it's a very tourist heavy area. And there's always groups that are like, we're going to make the list of all the things going on in Plymouth. And I don't think they ever realize how just monstrous that job is. And they're like, we're just gonna make a form that people can submit to, and they're like, but then you're missing so much, because and where do you draw the line between, if a guitarist is playing at a restaurant, does that count as an event? Like how do you get the events? Do people submit the events? What do you consider an event? Like, do you have a cutoff line? Or
Andy, you are understanding the challenges and the psychology of being a Halloween website owner. That hits the nail on the head, right? And you really, right from the start, come up against those choices of, what is considered, what should be included, where's the line drawn. And as the thing that really stood out in your comment there, which is, do you passively hope that people are sending you their information, that they're finding you and sending you their information? And I would say, do not count on that.
Yeah, for sure. And that's usually the first thing they do is like, well, we have a form. And I'm like, but no one's going to fill that out. We're too busy.
Yes. Yeah. So as I said, I have well over 2,000 Halloween events in the database. And those are just events. Those aren't even like haunted houses or ghost tours, right? These are just kind of one-off or shorter term events, very strictly seasonal events, things that might be an add-on to an existing business.
Like Hometown Haunts and Hops on October 28th?
Exactly. That's exactly it. No, that's exactly it. Yeah, totally. October 28th, it's during the day, starts at noon.
Mayflower Brewery.
You'll get done in time to go see your evening stuff for Halloween weekend. Exactly. So let's see, what are some of those parameters? Well, one thing is I do the research. So I absolutely do not depend on people sending me their info. I've got a link on a form on the site. If people find me and they're not already listed and they think that they fit the parameters of what Halloween New England will list, then they can submit the form. But the tiniest fraction of what you see on Halloween New England was submitted through a form. It is just the nonstop research, the just searching for any little thing. Once in a while, people will tip you off to something that they saw, but it's just the constant grind, honestly, of trying to find new things. Now, one of the things that's very helpful is that every year when I am updating things, I have, a list of things that were there last year, right?
Yeah.
And so I immediately go back to, is this, haunted history tour still happening? Have
Right.
they confirmed dates for this year? Is this theater company who had this production of Dracula that they did last year? Well, they're probably not doing Dracula this year, but do they still have Halloween programming that they added to their season this fall?
Hmm.
Oh, look, they do. And so then I update everything from there. So it's, I start in May. I just start plugging away on that list from last year. And I spend really May through August just trying to update the things that existed before, going back, seeing what's since been updated. It just takes constant repeat visits to those sites to try to pin that down. And then really about mid-August to September is when people who are not listed tend to start sending me their stuff through the form. But you're right. I mean, if you want to be a resource, if you want to be useful to somebody, you actually have to do the work. You actually
Yeah.
have to find those things, add the work. You cannot count on people to find you and to want to be included. What you end up getting in those scenarios is the one local business who just dominates.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Everything that they do, and they're the only thing that ends up being submitted. That one person who's just very proactive about promoting their business or event, and then it just dominates everything else. So you have to do the work if you are going to do this kind of thing. But it's rewarding, right? Because sometimes people come to this site and they think, "Oh my gosh, I'm already there." Like how did you find my information? How did I get on your radar? And my goal is obviously to be as useful as possible to Halloween fans and people of every age who are looking for stuff to do. But there's this, equally important aspect of the site, which is to promote these wonderful events that are here, these community events. Some things are for-profit businesses. Some things are could be a horror movie screening at the local town green in some corner of Connecticut. They didn't take the time necessarily, to send me their info, but I want that kind of information to exist on my site. I want people to realize how much is around them. I want them to think about and come across things like one of the things that I really love to see is how many local libraries have events that are Halloween related. At this time of year, libraries are very, and just increasingly every year, have more robust programs that are related to Halloween or haunted history. So you sometimes will see, one thing that comes to mind is there's a group called the Gravestone Girls, and they will research the local cemeteries in a particular town. And then they will present the haunted history or the history of that cemetery to the people of that town, usually through the library is a venue that they do that. And what a wonderful thing for people to learn about their community, have someone else who's, knowledgeable do the research and then present it. Libraries do all kinds of things that are, increasingly more horror or haunt related. They'll do Halloween movies, that they'll do screenings. But again, like haunted history and true crime things are very common at this time of year. And I love that. Like what a great thing for libraries to kind of get some skin in the game that way. And of course it's free because those are our tax dollars at work.
Yeah. I mean, in libraries, I feel like are becoming more, I don't want to say event spaces, but event based because, like the print is dead, kind of thing. And it's interesting because you were just kind of like in general when you're talking about the events, you're making me think of like when I was growing up I grew up in a small suburban town locally near here,
Yeah.
and everyone complained, "Oh, there's nothing to do. There's nothing to do. There's nothing to do." Then
Mhm.
with the internet becoming what it is,
Mhm.
it now gives you the ability to, if there's nothing to do, well, you
Mhm.
go do make something happen, and
Yes.
it can be as small as, you know, a reading of a horror book, or
Yes.
make
Yes.
something happen. And I love it. It gives the ability to get people connected with cool events going on.
Absolutely. And I think what has, I think, been revealed to me through Halloween New England, and this is our 10th year, Halloween New England.
Mm-hmm.
So I've certainly seen different types of trends and growth during that time. But one of the things that um, has become interesting to me to see, or I should say that I've come to an understanding about the role of Halloween New England as a website for people, which is, even if you're searching Google, which I think is a very reflexive thing for a lot of us to do when we're looking
Mm-hmm.
for ideas, you might be searching Google for, I don't know, it could be a particular thing, like let's say a ghost tour. I'm looking for ghost tours in my area, or I'm looking for, a Halloween festival in my area. The challenge is that depending on how short term that event is, depending on how that event exists on the internet and how long they've been there, there's a solid chance that that stuff is never going to come across your radar in a
Mm-hmm.
Google search.
Right.
You're the things that have existed for a long time, we're going to have preference. The things that have been there forever, the things that have a high volume, maybe the ones who've even just had a ton of traffic. Those are the things that are always going to rise to the surface. So there's so many events and attractions that you can search for them, but will never really find
Right.
unless you dig pretty deep into Google. And what Halloween New England has, I think, filled that vacuum for people in this way is actually they all exist on Halloween New England, right? They don't necessarily all exist on Google. And you can't find them if you wanted to on
Yeah,
Google,
and
right?
it's a great point where, like, Google is great if you know what you're looking for.
Yes.
But if you love, haunt ghost tours,
Yeah.
and you enter your zip code into HalloweenNewEngland.com, it brings up
Mm-hmm.
Halloween events, and then you'd be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I was looking for a ghost tour, but I didn't know there
Yeah.
was such things as horror conventions like Haunts and Hops
Yes.
at Mayflower Brewery on October."
Yes. But that's
Yeah.
precisely it, right? So in the case of Haunts and Hops, it's a first time event.
Right.
Right. So you can Google it, but will it come up yet? Right.
And you'd have to Google it by name. You would have to know
You'd
about
have
it in order.
you'd have to actually come with that pre-existing specificity
Mm-hmm.
to find it. And lots of people do not come to Halloween season or come to event ideas with that specificity. So one of the things that I think of even in your area is, there is a ghost tour company that
There's
is
at
in your
least
area.
one. There's like
Yeah,
two or
yeah. And
three.
so if you go to, the ghost tour guide from Massachusetts, you'll find it. Now, the woman who runs it, I don't know if year round or if we're talking about the winter, but like a long season. So let's just at least say spring through the fall. So a good 3-season business for her. And yet, also in Plymouth, there's a historical society that does like one-off ghost cemetery walks that they do, and they might be once or twice during the season. So that's a good example of something that changes every year, which tour, maybe which burial ground they're going to do it in. The date's going to change. A historical society, I don't want to speak for them in particular, but most of them are on a shoestring, no string budget.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And so how are they going to get the word out to anyone beyond the people that they're already reaching?
Mm-hmm.
And how is somebody who's, in your particular corner of Massachusetts going to know the full range of what's available to them? So that's a good example of I want those cemetery tours that the Historical Society puts on to have a place on Halloween New England. So they would be on, let's say, the Halloween events guide, right? They're one-off event, they're very short term. Whereas the person who has a ghost tour business, and full-fledged business, she would exist on the ghost tour guide, right? So you can start to see when you're poking around Halloween New England that there's some ways of distinguishing, again, short-term events or one-off events or kind of side gig, events on the events calendar, and then people who have professional standalone businesses tend to be featured on the category guides, right? As long as they fit the qualifications for that. So, but the idea again is to really give everyone a platform to be seen and to have access to Halloween fans. And it's just been a really great gift to be able to provide a platform for people, and showcase the variety of ways that people are interpreting Halloween, what the Halloween season looks like, whether that is, like a Halloween or inspired or horror inspired, play or musical, which is something I see quite a bit at local theater companies now. What a wonderful way for them to find a new audience, right? Who might come to them because they're doing something that has a genre or subject matter that inspires people, that wouldn't ordinarily go to the theater. What a wonderful thing. And it's, to me, I'm a lifelong theater lover. And so the idea that there's a way that I can support, theater companies that really have struggled so much post-COVID to get people back in seats, like they're braver, their seasons are braver than they ever have been, what they're coming up with. And I want to be able to, provide a showcase for people to find those kinds of things.
So I have 2 children. They're both adults, so I have scarred them as much as I possibly can already.
You've done your part.
Yeah, but for people who have younger kids, is there kind of like some sort of system that this is family friendly, or this is scary, or like, is this good for a date night? Is there that kind of information available on the website?
Yes, absolutely. So the easiest thing to do is to go to your state and to the drop-down menu, and you've got the family friendly events guide. So if you go to the Halloween events guide, it's going to have kind of the biggest bucket, right? Everything that's an event will be displayed there. But of course, that's a lot to sift through if you're really just looking for something for you and your kids, or, to take your grandkids to. And so I've got family-friendly event guides that are dedicated. I just have 4 states doing it, and that's just because they're the states that have the most number of events that, sort of warrant having it peeled off. So Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and New Hampshire have family-friendly events guides. And that way you're just looking at things that would be considered all ages. Non-scary, always non-scary in that case. Whereas the full events guide is going to have that full range, right? It's going to have scary stuff. It's going to have not, scare-free stuff, family-friendly stuff. So what you might find on the family-friendly guide are, pumpkin festivals that are going on in your area. It could be a kids, Halloween parade, right? Where they can be in costume. It could be a wonderful event at the library that they're doing. I think one of them had like a Stranger Things escape room at the local library.
Oh, that's
what a
cool.
wonderful, right? Sometimes it's even, so one of the things I loved was, and I have credit to the Ashland, Mass Library, because they are, they have, I'll just, again, give them a shout out. They actually have wonderful horror and Halloween programming that they are doing. And they're really doing that stuff year round, which, oh my gosh, I love that. I love that they have the vision to do that. I've been to a horror book fest there. The Framingham and Ashland Library are teaming up in November to do a kids horror, oh my gosh, I'm going to get this wrong, horror comic festival.
Oh, nice.
So that's intentionally like for kids and teens, where it's horror comic books, and they're bringing, I think, an authors to talk about it. And what a wonderful idea, right? To be able to do that. Special effects makeup workshop. There was one that I went to I think it was in August or July, where the Ashland Library brought in a makeup artist from Connecticut who came in and just talked about, special effects makeup for haunted houses. And it drew kids, it drew adults. It
Sure.
was suitable for families. You had kids who were getting into bloody makeup because they wanted to. You had adults getting into makeup, and it was all just like this amazing experience of being able to learn about things, the different types of makeup, but see it come before your eyes, and then people having a chance to participate. And it was just so well done. And even something like that is a little outside the box for what someone might think of as family friendly. But those kids who were there, they might not be ready for something that is legitimately a scary, type experience, but that was totally up their alley, and it's creative and engaging in that way. One thing that is helpful, sort of an innovation that has come on in recent years, is I have a guide on Halloween New England called the Scare Free Haunt Guide. So one thing I have seen in recent years, and I love seeing this, which is a number of professional haunted houses and trails in our area are offering, a night or two where people can go through and experience their haunt, but there's no actors, no pop outs, nothing to scare people. So they'll have, you can walk through the scenes or the trail. You can, you'll be immersed in the scenic lighting, the fog, the sound, kind of have all those elements of the atmosphere of that experience. But that no one's going to jump out at you or startle you. And, for some people, that might be considered family friendly. Lots of families do engage with that. But also there's plenty of adults who love that Halloween spookiness and atmosphere. But for them, they don't want anyone popping out or interacting with them. Yep. And this is just such a beautiful thing to kind of thread the needle between being able to deliver a very unique, atmospheric, self-guided, low stakes experience for people where they just get to appreciate, let's say, the scenery and the detail of a particular attraction, but without having that scary element.
That's really cool. I didn't know they did that.
Oh, isn't it so fabulous? And I don't see anybody who has tried that who didn't bring it back the next year.
Yeah.
Which is such a credit to the fact that there is a need out there. Those younger people who might be going through that, those might be haunt fans, down the line. It's a wonderful opportunity for parents. Maybe let's say their middle schooler has expressed interest in going to a haunt, but maybe the parent's a little skeptical that they're quite ready for that experience. Mm-hmm. What a great way to dip your toe in the water and, see what that's all about. So, and of course, that's a good example of, those haunted attractions that are offering that. They're usually kind of a one-off event, or maybe on a Sunday or a Thursday. So they may not come across people's radar readily unless you're looking for it. And even if you looked for it on Google, I bet you wouldn't find it.
Right.
So if you go to Halloween New England, you can find it. But even I felt like I wanted to take it a step further, which is not just have those things listed. Hey, it's a no scare night at the Dark Manor, right? But instead, can there be an actual guide where, if that's the experience that you're looking for, let me show you all the attractions on every date that it's being offered, with links to find more information. So that Haunted Grandview Manor or Maniac Manor up in Maine, those two haunts in Maine that are offering this kind of experience, you can immediately see what dates it's happening. And you don't have to go searching through kind of the larger bucket of every Halloween event to pin them down. So that's something I see a ton of engagement with on my site, which shows me there absolutely is a lot of energy behind wanting that kind of experience.
Right.
And
creepy, not scary.
Yeah. And it's beautiful. Like the first time I had ever experienced that, I went up to New Hampshire to Haunted Overload. And they have been they're probably the first one who had been doing this. And they've been doing it for actually much longer time than anybody else, this particular offering. And they refer to it as Fright Light. And they have an amazing regular haunt show. But they also have this Fright Light. So again, it's typically on a Thursday for them. And people can go up and they get to experience the detail of that haunted trail, the spookiness of it all. I mean, it is one of those haunts that you want to linger longer in and just take it all in, soak up every bit of it. also, I don't want to say across the board, but many of the attractions that will do a no scare night, sometimes they're more lenient on the usual rule of like no pictures. That's usually no pictures is like the standard for a
Yeah.
regular nighttime haunt show. But quite often, when they do a no scare night, many haunts are more lenient where you're invited to take pictures, and so it becomes also like a photo op opportunity for people to take pictures of themselves in a haunted attraction.
That's cool.
So the one that I'm thinking of this year, 13th World Fright Park in Palmer, Mass, they're doing something called the Halloween Experience, where they're actually having staff in the haunt on that no scare night, where the staff is there to be able to take your picture. So you don't even have to do a selfie, right?
Oh,
So
that's
in the
cool.
haunt, they're there not just to sort of guide you, if you need help finding your way or have questions, but to, be able to take your picture for you. So you don't have to kind of extend your arm and hope for the best.
Oh, that's cool.
And, it's like, that's such a thoughtful thing to take it to that extra step.
So I'm sure, I mean, we briefly talked about COVID, and God knows I'm kind of done talking about it. But do you also list virtual events?
Yeah, I do. So that I started doing that during COVID, during 2020. Of course, Massachusetts in particular had our restrictions in this state for events and attractions was far more restrictive than in other states. So I saw in Massachusetts in particular, people trying to bring a lot more virtual programming, whereas in other states like New Hampshire and Rhode Island and Connecticut in particular, it was a little bit more in between, where some attractions were opening, some just said, we're going to sit it out this year. And those states would have kind of a mix of live and virtual events. So that definitely was very, very prominent part of the 2020 season on Halloween New England's event calendar. Since then, I will do virtual events. There's fewer virtual events in the 6 New England states that I come across that are Halloween specific. And of course, lots of libraries still have really robust events, virtual programming, but they're not necessarily Halloween related. And I would say libraries are the most likely place to come up with those virtual events. So I do list them. Some do have them, but if I were to even go beyond New England, I mean, that's a rabbit hole. So absolutely, I've had to draw the line on just really sticking with things that are, because of course, virtual means anywhere, right? So theoretically, one of the most exciting virtual events that I just learned about, I think a week ago. I cannot wait for this. I think this is brilliant. It's a brilliant idea. It's a brilliant program. I hope everyone who hears this will sign up for it. So again, credit to the Ashland Library, but they are teaming up with a whole bunch of New England libraries to offer this program, where they're bringing in, for the month of October, I believe it's every single Saturday. Some of them are in the morning, some are in the afternoon, but they're all virtual, where they have someone who's interviewing a different haunter to talk about haunting, to talk about haunted experiences, so some of the people that come to mind, Barrett's Haunted Mansion, Mary Barrett, the owner, is going to be one of the people who is going to be, I feel like she might be on the long weekend, that Saturday of the long weekend. She's going to be interviewed, just talking for an hour about Barrett's Haunted Mansion. But the interviewer, Jeff DePaoli, is going to be kind of guiding the conversation, asking the things that we are all wanting to know about her event. They're bringing in the original creator of Spooky World, David Bertolino.
Yeah.
He's going to be kicking it off I think the first October weekend. They're bringing in John Braver of Delusion, which is Delusion is like a very immersive theater experience with a horror twist. It's almost like you are part of the horror movie that he's created.
Interesting.
They're
Yeah.
based in LA, and then they're also doing, I think the final weekend they're doing a feature on Old Joliet Prison, which is a haunted attraction now. And so they're bringing in the owner of that company, 13th Floor, to be able to talk about, Old Joliet Prison and what it's like as a haunted attraction and maybe different challenges. That's amazing.
That's really cool
programming.
Yeah.
Right? Like, talk about taking things to the next level for Halloween fans in this area, and credit to our local New England libraries for doing this and prioritizing this and seeing, even if it's not what they may have, might not even be their cup of tea, like personally, but credit to them for having the vision to bring something totally unique. And it's all virtual. So, for me, I travel every single weekend in October because I'm at a million events this season. So I can't even tell you what it means to me to be able to know that I'm in Connecticut on a certain weekend, but can tune in and watch this, or that I'm going to be in Maine on that third weekend, but I can still see this. I love that. I don't even have to be at home to experience it. And it's during the day, so even better.
Yeah.
Won't take away from your night fun.
We talked about going down a rabbit hole, and I'm going to ask you a question about going down rabbit holes.
Let's go down rabbit holes.
So you mentioned stuff that happens in July. I know that there's some horror themed, like the one that jumps to mind is, I know every year I see there's like a quote unquote drive-in showing of Jaws, but the screen is facing the water and you're floating in an inner tube watching the movie. Like, do you do off season?
Is that in Rhode Island? Is that one?
I can't remember where it is, but every year I see it.
I have not been to that.
And I just saw that. I'm like, oh my God, that's so cool and creepy. And, of course they do it after dark. And so you're floating in the ocean after
also,
dark.
I would
watching
never
Jaws.
do that. I was like, a bridge too far for this girl.
Yeah. But do you list off-season stuff at all?
Oh my gosh. It is so.
I told you it's going down a rabbit hole.
No, that is a constant calculation. I have, and I would say this year I've probably done that more than ever. I absolutely was listing things that were in the summer, June and July and August that came across. I will say August probably had more things than ever before on that calendar. But partly because I am starting in May to begin that process of going through my database and updating everything for 2023, seeing what's been confirmed, updating that information. So things are coming across my radar when I'm actually just searching for maybe an October thing, but I'm coming across, a horror movie screening somewhere, during a summer movie schedule. And I think, is there enough time for people to find this? Right. So if it's coming up this weekend, I'm not going to take the time to add something in July.
Right.
But if I think, all right, it's June, I see something on the schedule that could be interesting in, first week of August. Yeah, I'll probably throw it on there because I know that people are coming to the site over the summer at different times. The bulk of the traffic is Labor Day to mid-November. However, people absolutely are coming to the site because they know that things are updated pretty early. As soon as I get them, they go live. So it depends. So like one of the things that was happening a lot this summer, and as I mentioned, it's very much a personal mission for me to support theaters that are doing, Halloween programming or horror type, adjacent programming. So I was seeing some events this summer. Like there was an Addams Family musical. So again, somebody's going to absolutely want to come across that. So the Addams Family musical was happening. There's been a couple actual productions. There's a couple of productions of that have happened since the summer and going into the fall. Beetlejuice. Yeah, right. The tour of Beetlejuice is coming through. There's been some, so up in Maine, they are doing Exorcist the musical, this fall. I had the great pleasure. I can only say this was an amazing experience. At the end of August, I went up to Nashua to experience Evil Dead, the musical in HD, which is, first of all, amazing. So incredible. If you love Evil Dead or Evil Dead 2, this is the show for you. Even if you're not a theater person, I encourage you to go. It's like a whole different experience. You can't really put it in a corner
Okay.
and name what you're seeing. They use a video boards that are incredible. So it really brings you into, so one of the things it does is it allows you to kind of feel like the things that are so distinct in the movie, the cabin outside, the trees, coming to life, like it allows you to have those experiences without needing to create them practically with a set or a rotation of a set or, things flying in. It allows you to just have a more versatile experience in terms of the environment. It's a musical, right? So the music is hilarious. The actors are tremendous. They just bring all the camp and joy and fun that you could bring to it. And of course, it's got this layer where you get to choose: do you want to be in splatter zone tickets or do you want to stay dry?
Of course.
Get stuck in the front row.
Yeah.
I'm soaked by intermission with blood. What an amazing time, right? To be able to go in, and they do that, like, because it's such a gory movie, right?
Yeah.
There's so much gore, there's so much splatter, and the fact that you can bring that element to the audience, these people who are, jumping in and giving consent to participate in something that is next level. It cannot be topped. So I know that they had a successful Nashua run, which was so wonderful to see, especially at the tail end of the summer. What an accomplishment when people are really busy at the end of the summer, kind of soaking up their last of summer or getting ready for school if they're parents.
It's the worst time for ticket sales.
Yeah, like they nailed it. They just had an incredible success there. So I cannot wait because they are bringing it to Boston in January and February. They're coming for a month of performances. So if this at all interests you, Andy, I hope you go.
I'm making a note right now.
You should. They're going to be in Boston. I'm going to be there definitely opening night. And I would not miss the opportunity to see it again. I would not miss that opportunity. And that's a perfect example of something that if you love the season or if you love Halloween, it is not going to end on October 31st, right? And this is actually a very unique opportunity to kind of engage with that experience, or something that is horror related in this way, just a little extra, special experience that's going to happen in the dead of winter. Like, don't we all need that in New England? Something to look forward to in February. Yeah. And what a wonderful, wonderful thing that they're doing.
And for people who really love Halloween, it's all year.
Yeah.
It
is all year. It is all year. And that's kind of some of the feedback I've given to the various libraries who do, who are offering some of this off-season programming, like a horror book fest or a special effects makeup workshop in July, is thank you. Thank you for thinking broader than October, right? Mm-hmm. Thank you for thinking that there are people who want this kind of stuff and they don't look at October as the only time to do it. And frankly, you might get more attention for your event by doing
there's less going on. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're tapping into people knowing it's coming down the pipeline this season and they just want to get in there and get something fun and spooky going on. And, there are definitely haunts that will, especially indoor haunts in particular, that will offer some off-season stuff. So Valentine's Day is definitely a time to look at haunted attractions. Some indoor haunts will offer like a Valentine's Day massacre, something like that. Of course, Krampus in December, you'll see.
We do a Krampus scavenger hunt.
Yeah.
I do that. Yeah.
No. So are you doing it again this year?
This will be our COVID always throws me off. I don't know whether to count that year or not. I think it's our fourth year.
Wow.
That's how we met Hannah, the co-host. So the whole story goes, my business partner is like, there should be a Krampus event in Plymouth. And I'm like, yeah, there should. And I was bored at work one day and I created a Facebook event for Inebri-art and it just said Krampus is coming.
Yep.
And the event description said, are you on the naughty list? Krampus is coming for you. And I invited like 10 people. And by the end of the day, there was like 60 people interested or going. And I didn't know what it was. Like I had no idea what it was. And then
You're like, well, I guess I got to create it now.
yeah. And I was having a beer next to a buddy of mine. And he's like, oh, now they're shutting down Main Street for a Krampus parade. I'm like, it's a parade now?
Should it be?
Yeah. So we developed the idea of making it a scavenger hunt where you get bonus points for Krampuses on your team.
Yeah.
And the first year we brought in a cosplayer dressed as Krampus, and it's our give back moment of the year. So in order to participate, you have to bring non-perishable food items.
Yeah.
And then we donate it to the food pantry, and we basically unleash people on downtown Plymouth.
Oh.
And my whole thing was I never wanted people to bring, 15 coasters and 12 stickers and, all the scavenger hunt crap. So it is all tracked through Instagram, and it's all photo ops. And you can go on Instagram now and look at hashtag Krampus1620, and you can see all the photo ops from the past years. And it's go to this location and do the YMCA, go to this location and shadow box, go to this location and do this. And it sends you all over downtown and into downtown businesses. And it's so
what a
much
beautiful
fun.
thing.
Yeah.
What a beautiful thing. Tell me, was it, did you know quite what we were getting into when you decided to move forward? Like, did it end up being just, did it come together easily for you, or did it end up being like, what have I done?
Well, I mean, I feel like if I hadn't run events in general, I'd be like, what's going on? But, we had, gotten our feet wet doing stuff before. So you always learn stuff and be like, all right, let's change this, let's tweak that. Right. But like the devoted the level of
your words carefully.
I'm going to win this every year. Like they are so competitive, and just some of the like I like to entertain myself. So I always put something on there that's like ridiculous that I'm like, oh, you can't even do this to get the points for it. And how they try to like tweak those words to get the points. And so it's the dead of winter, and there's the jetty that goes out into Plymouth Bay. And so there's points to get to the end of the jetty. There's points if you're in a boat, and you get bonus points if that boat is in the water. So someone convinced the harbor master to drive them to the end of the jetty. So they're like, end of the jetty, boat in the water. And I'm like, holy crap, that's a lot of points. And it's just like, so just,
they are.
Some
people just need someone to say, I don't think you can do this. And that's all the motivation they need to just absolutely make it happen. That's fabulous.
It's just some of the silly, like a bartender friend of mine had gotten engaged. So I put on there, go to this bar and propose to the bartender.
Yeah.
And then turned out she wasn't working.
Oh, no.
So just some random bartender kept having people come in and propose to her. And it's just like, it's so silly and so fun. And it's getting to the point now that like the businesses who take part every year are kind of like, okay, well, what are they coming in for this year? And then all the new businesses, I don't tell people, I just send people in. And to me, that's the fun, because it's like the first one, you're like, well, that was weird. And then after the fifth one, you're like, okay, yeah, I know. You can propose to me. Go on, And it's just
so incredible.
And
I love that. I had gone to, it was a number of years ago, I want to say maybe 2017 or 2018. It had to be 2017. It was a while back. There were two people, not quite in your area, but down the southeast, South Shore, and they did like a whole haunted history scavenger hunt that was Halloween related.
Yeah.
And it brought you to all these different kind of like spots of, where was someone murdered at this spot. It had a lot to do with like the Bridgewater Triangle.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And it was just so fascinating. Like, it was so fascinating. We went all over, Taunton and Dighton and Lakeville and all that area, and, different farms, just a little bit of everything. But there were absolutely moments where I found us just walking through a field going, how far do we go until we know that we've made the wrong turn to find this like murder spot?
Yeah.
Where there's this like site of a kidnapping or something. It just and turns out we had to keep going. There it was, but it's just they put in so much love into it. It's got to be. I mean, I look at that as just being a tremendous amount of work to pull off. But if you have that love of doing it, what a fun thing.
And it's so fun because then basically we just sit at a bar with our beer and a laptop and monitor the hashtag. And it's so much fun for us because like, we're like, okay, what silly thing are we going to have them do? And one of my favorites that I still remember was the task was blow a kiss to a stranger.
Yeah.
And it's this girl and she blows a kiss across the bar to this guy and the look on his face. I mean, just devastated me. I was laughing so hard because he was just like, not disgusted, but like, what are you doing? And it's great. It is a lot of fun.
Oh, I love hearing that. I mean, that's the kind of stuff where it's just so special, right? Yeah. So special to be able to experience a holiday or a time of year in a new way, and ultimately your community, right? Yeah. To be able to engage in your community and just that's fabulous. I love hearing that, Andy. I hope you. And then you get
the people who don't really know what Krampus is are like, why are all these devils walking around
right
at Christmas? It's so weird.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's fantastic.
That's but we've been chatting like super long. I gotta end it before Fish, my editor, kills me. So HalloweenNewEngland.com is a place to go to find out everything Halloween in New England. Yeah. So I want to say thank you for taking the time to talk to us. Are there social media things that they should follow for that, or is it just the website?
We're on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Give us a follow, maybe on all of them. They all have slightly different content depending on which one you like to follow. There's amazing contests that are going on throughout, September and October. So if you're looking to have a unique experience or you want to try your luck, there's well over a dozen contests up at any point during September. And it will start to, quiet down on the contest front by mid-October just to give people time to use their contest tickets. But so much is going on, as I mentioned, well over 2,000 events. And there's the beautiful time of year. I would encourage people to consider going early in the season, support those attractions that are open in September, that are open on Sundays, Thursdays. It's a wonderful way to get a more personal experience at some of these tours and haunted attractions.
Smaller lines.
Smaller lines, a bit more personal. It's just, I don't know, it's just different when you're not in line in the same way. So I would encourage people just to go early in the season, get the most out of it. I certainly see, somewhere like 6 to 8 events every weekend. So if I can do it, surely everyone can see at least 1 or 2 things every weekend. You don't have to do it quite as crazy as I do, but so much variety out there. There really is something for everyone. So I hope you check it out and I hope you enjoy the site.
Awesome. Thank you again so much. And
thank you. Happy Halloween, Andy.
Happy Halloween. Yeah. And this is the spot where we stop talking. And thanks for checking out the show today, listeners. If you enjoyed the content today, you can go over to patreon.com/Inebri-art to support the show. You can join over there for just a few dollars a month and help us provide this fun content that you just checked out. You can also email us at Inebri-art.com with your questions, complaints, and concerns, or you can find us on all social medias at Inebri-art or at Inebri-art6 on Instagram. And also don't forget to check out our other shows, Bar Talk Podcast, Old Colony Cast, Inebri-art, and all the other shows on the Inebri-art Network, which you can find at Inebri-art.com. Thanks again for listening.